May mga acknowledgement receipts din, Mr. Chair, na pare-pareho ang pagkasulat. Mary Grace PIATTOS is indeed a person or alive because there's no corroborative attachment to it. Whether these persons and individuals who have received the confidential funds were truly alive and truly person, makikita po natin.
Just to give a short comment, no? It is a duty of public officers to appear before Congress or any of its committees. In fact, in the case of Balag versus Senate of the Philippines, GR number 234608 dated July 3, 2018, the Supreme Court had the occasion to rule that the attendance is mandatory when so summoned by Congress, is underscored by the fact that failure to do so without legal basis is subject to criminal sanction under Article 150 of the Revised Penal Code. So, para lang po maunawaan ng ating mga kababayan, ito po ay ang hindi po pagdalo sa mga committee hearing ng Kongreso ay pwede pong makasuhan ng kriminal. Dahil ito po ay tinatalaga ng batas na ang pagpunta dito ay mandatory para sa mga public officials. Maraming salamat po. Meron pa po bang gustong magsalita? Yes, Comsec, please continue.
Your Honor, I would like to recognize Vice Chairperson, Honorable Janet L. Garin from the 1st District of Iloilo, Honorable Rolando M. Valeriano from the 2nd District of Manila, and from the Department of Education, Undersecretary for Operations, Mr. Rev. C. A. Escobedo is present. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. We will now proceed to the next item in our agenda. We will continue on the deliberation. The first to interpolate is, listahan ko. Okay. The chair would like to recognize the first interpolator, Congressman Zia Alonto Adyong.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Mr. Chair, I'd like to take off from the previous discussions that we had last November 5, Mr. Chair, where the committee has already established a numerous acknowledgement receipts from the Office of the Vice President as well as from the Department of Education. Various of these acknowledgement receipts bearing no names and only signatures, Mr. Chair. Now, we have already established that in the last committee hearing. There were even acknowledgement receipts, Mr. Chair, with names that repeatedly, hindi lang dalawang beses, even thrice, tatlong beses pong nag-a-appear sa mga sets of acknowledgement receipts. May mga acknowledgement receipts din, Mr. Chair, na pare-pareho ang pagkasulat. At yung iba, pare-parehong tinta ng kanilang ballpen na ginamit. Na there have been numerous other observations, Mr. Chair, which lead this committee and at least this representation to believe na meron talagang questionable yung processes at mukhang gawa-gawa, yung tong mga acknowledgement receipts na ito, Mr. Chair. So since we started discussing about the acknowledgement receipt, Mr. Chair, there were numerous inquiries from the public asking me kung how important is this acknowledgement receipts are. So, pag-usapan po natin yon, and I think this is part of my manifestation before I go on proceed with my questions, Mr. Chair. Ang mga acknowledgement receipts na po ito ay isinumite ng Office of the Vice President at the Department of Education bilang documentary evidence of payment for the supposed expenses using confidential funds, Mr. Chair. For the record, and to answer the public, Mr. Chair, yung buong kabuuan po ng confidential funds ng Office of the Vice President, totaling 500 million pesos, as well as the confidential funds of the Department of Education, totaling 120 612.5 million, these amounts were liquidated, Mr. Chair, solely through the acknowledgement receipts, totaling with a grand total of 612.5 million of these public funds utilized, na ginamit, na ang binigay lang sa COA as a justification for the utilization of these confidential funds ay yung acknowledgement receipts na marami ho tayong nakita in the previous hearings na medyo questionable. Yung iba ay to a point na nakakatawa, Mr. Chair. And I would just like to cite an example, and let me go back to the previous, again, acknowledgement receipt that was first observed by Chairman Romy Acop. How many acknowledgement receipts are we talking here, Mr. Chair? No, based on my office count, there are almost 4,500 acknowledgement receipts na nanggaling po in total, no? Both nanggaling po sa Office of the Vice President, pati rin po galing po dun sa Department of Education when the Vice President concurrently holding the office as Secretary. Roughly 4,500, 2,670 from the Office of the Vice President submitted acknowledgement receipts, and 1,820 with no invoices, zero official receipts, no? Lahat po ito acknowledgement receipts na walang attachment of proof of identity, no? Or the existence man lang ng yung supposed recipients nito ay buhay or totoong tao. So this is what we find out during the previous committee hearings, and this is what I think the observation of this representation would like to find out. May I again, let me go back to the previous discussion that we had at nagkaroon din ito ng national traction. May I request COMSEC to please flash the first acknowledgement receipt that was noticed by Chairman Acop. Ayan po, Mr. Chair. Yung Mary Grace PIATTOS, no? Isa po yan sa mga acknowledgement receipt na naisumite sa Commission on COA, Commission on Audit, na alam naman po natin na yung pangalan na Mary Grace ay isang restaurant, yung PIATTOS ay isang chichirya. No, if you ask me, medyo questionable kung meron pa talagang taong nagngangalang Mary Grace PIATTOS. Now, we could not find out whether this Mary Grace PIATTOS is indeed a person or alive because there's no corroborate attachment to it other than the acknowledgement receipt na receive natin, ang pirmado niya. So, Mr. Chair, this prompted, Mr. Chair, in fact, some of the members here and guest members who came out with a yung pabuya na kung sino man ang makakapagturo, Mr. Chair, sa taong ito na buhay, we are willing to provide 1 million pesos as a reward for anybody who can point to us whether this Mary Grace PIATTOS is indeed a person and if she is really around, alive, no, Mr. Chair. Also, as Mr. Chair, another observation that I want to ask, I think it was also already mentioned during the previous hearings, that there are names appearing in both the acknowledgement receipts from the OVP and as well as from the Department of Education. Pero may isang pangalan na nag-stand out sa akin among all the acknowledgement receipts na sinumite nila. So, Mr. Chair, just to maintain the confidentiality of the activities, assuming there were any such activities, Mr. Chair, I would just like to show to you the signature of this particular acknowledgement receipt which I noticed, Mr. Chair. No? May I request our COMSEC to flash the second? Yan po. Ito po yung acknowledgement receipt. Galing po yan sa Office of the Vice President. Yung set po na sinubmit. Gusto ko lang pong tanungin ang ating COA. Mr. Chair, is Ms. Camora present?
May we know if representative from COA is present? Attorney Camora? Asan? Yes, Attorney Camora is present.
Attorney? Comsec, can you please flash the... You have already taken your oath, man, no? Kasi several times ka naman umattend, no, Attorney Camora? Tama po ba? Yes. Can you... Yeah,
Attorney
please.
Camora, please answer.
Yes po, Mr. Chair.
Nakita niyo naman po itong ano, no? Acknowledgement receipt, no?
Yes po, Mr. Chair.
Sa palagay niyo, nababasa niyo po ba yan, yung pangalan dyan?
It's, I think, Kokoy Villamin po.
Yeah, Kokoy Villamin received on... Ano ba yan? 9, no?
September
7, 2023, no? So, itabi lang po natin yan for the meantime. And I'd like also to show you another acknowledgement receipt, this time from the Department of Education. Mr. Chair, can I ask COMSEC to... Yes. On the left side, with black ink, that's from the OVP. On the other side is from DepEd. Okay, pakibasa po yan, yung pangalan din po dyan sa DepEd.
Parang parehas po, Mr. Chair, Kokoy Villamin.
Parehas po, no?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Oo. So, ibig sabihin, the point I'm trying to drive at, Mr. Chair, is that based on the documents and the acknowledgement receipts, which we do not have any other ways to really affirm whether these persons and individuals who have received the confidential funds were truly alive and truly person, makikita po natin yung medyo hindi ho kapanipaniwala ako, ordinaryo po ako na tao, I'm not an auditor, but as you can see it, pareho po yung pangalan nila, Kokoy Villamin, yung acknowledgement receipt from the Office of the Vice President, and at the same time, from the DepEd, the same person, Kokoy Villamin, from Osamis, no? Sa palagay niyo po ba yan? Kung titingnan po natin, Mr. Chair, sa palagay natin, common ba yung pangalan na, Mr. Chair, Ms. Camora, yung pangalan na Kokoy Villamin?
Mr. Chair, parang hindi po since hindi, para siyang nickname yung Kokoy po.
So, masasabi niyo po ba as a head or nag-audit ng Intelligence and Confidential Funds Audit Office, masasabi niyo po ba na isang person yan?
Pwede po, Mr. Chair.
Pwede?
Pwede po.
Pwedeng isang person, no? Is it just a coincidence that the same two offices heading by the same person submitting to you the same acknowledgement receipts can encounter two persons? How unlikely would that be? Two persons with the same name, bearing the same spelling, same last name, with the same first name. Posible po po yan?
Medyo likely less possible.
Yeah, I think
po.
it's highly unlikely, Mr. Chair, na yun po yung mangyayari, no? Kung titingnan niyo po ba yan, Ms. Camora, yung sulat po ba dyan pagkapareho?
Hindi po.
I think it's very obvious, Mr. Chair, that the signatures, Mr. Chair, on the acknowledgement receipt submitted by the Office of the Vice President is quite different from the acknowledgement received by the Department of Education, no? Parehang pangalan pero mukhang magkaiba ang tinta. Mr. Chair, this is just one of the examples that we have received, no? From the office from the COA, no? Yung sinabit po nilang acknowledgement receipt, Mr. Chair. Now, is it true, Mr. Chair, that I'd like to ask Attorney Camora, is it true, Mr. Chair, na magkaiba po yung auditor dun sa OVP at saka the same sa Department of Education?
Parang that time po.
yung resident auditor po nila, magkaiba po, no?
Yes po.
Oh,
Yung
magkaiba.
resident auditor,
Yes,
definitely magkaiba po.
Kasi kung isa po yung auditor nito, I think malalaman po nila ito and they will be flagged, no? Kung bakit magkaparehong pangalan and magkaiba yung signatures. Exactly the same spelling and exactly the same family name. Tama po ba?
Tama po, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think, Mr. Chair, this is something that we should look into. The reason why I'm pointing this out, Mr. Chair, and for the public's information, ito po yung pinag-uusapan natin dito. Dahil unang-una po, with this kind of itong pag-aabuso sa ganitong proseso ng pag-audit na ibibigay lang po nila is acknowledgement receipts, it gives us so many, it provides us so many, and it opens up so many floodgates of questions. Which I believe, yun yung pinaka-importante po na masagot. Dahil these are public funds utilized, and these are funds na readily available for their request. Tapos ganito yung nakikita nating mga reports nila at saka yung pag-acknowledge ng kanilang pag-utilize ng kanilang pondo. It's very obvious, Mr. Chair, na hindi lang po si Mary Grace Piattos ang nakita po nating questionable. Nakikita din po natin na may mga acknowledgement receipts, Mr. Chair, na pare-pareho yung pangalan, na magkakaiba yung date, na magkakaiba yung kanilang pirma, Mr. Chair. So it begs the question now, how do we be able to supply answers to this question? But even if we ask COA here, mayroon bang attachment na sinubmit sa inyo to verify whether this was given as a way to purchase information, or is it a reward payment for an information that is relevant to the activity of the Office of the Vice President or the DepEd in relation to confidential funds? Kasi magkaiba po yan eh.
Mr. Chair, acknowledgement receipts po ang sinubmit nila, and
Acknowledgement receipt po, ano po yan? That's the payment for information, purchase of information, or yung
po,
reward?
Both po, Mr. Chair. Acknowledgement receipts ang sinubmit nila for both information and rewards. It's just that sa rewards po, may additional requirement lang po kaming hiningi.
Yeah, but unfortunately, some of these acknowledgement receipts were not supported by a certificate of success. Hindi ho ba? Kasi magkaiba po yan, Mr. Chair. Pag yung purchase of information, regardless whether this information are useful or not, talagang bibilin mo lang yan. Diba? But the reward and payment for the information, dapat po yan may certificate of success. Hindi ho ba? Dun sa agencies po na pinagpartneran, for example, ng inyong opisina. Tama po ba yun, Attorney Camora?
Tama po, Mr. Chair.
And all of these acknowledgements receipts were being supported by the certificate of success?
Mr. Chair, yung sa rewards lang po.